Today's show is a special one, my friends. It is the 1000th episode of Locked On Twins. I could only think of one way to make this an appropriate celebration, but you're not going to find out until after the intro. So it's time to buckle up and get excited because this is Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, and welcome back to Locked On Twins and the Prodigal Son. If you are not watching on YouTube, you really need to, because our baby boy Nash Walker is back for episode number 1000, and I have to believe, Nash, about 800 of those were you. Welcome back, buddy. How are you?
Super good, Brandon. The intro gave me it made me emotional. I was like, my life for so long, it felt like every day I would see that and I'd hear it so many times. It's crazy to hear it again, but doing really well. Love to see the show continuing, thriving into the summer and what was such a special year for the Twins.
For sure. And I'm your host, Brandon Warren. If you haven't already figured that out, you can unfollow me on Twitter at Brandon_WARNE. Nash Walker 9, as if you are a regular listener over an extended period of time, you know his handle. And we are appreciative of you making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, easy for me to say, as well as on YouTube and, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Again, want to get people excited about interacting with the show. We're going to do some new things as far as running them live, so you'll be able to get them live as they go. Probably most mornings. We'll probably do them early in the morning, record them the night before, but get excited because we're working on a consistent schedule with our friend Answer Dave Brown. But more importantly, we have Nash here today. First, though, we do have to give some love to our friends over at Jase Medical. Today's episode brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Nash, how is Reno right now?
Reno's great, Brandon. It's a really interesting thing to actually go through a season. I know you and I did postcasts. We did a bunch of postcasts, and I said coming into a minor league season, well, I've watched 162 Twins games before. I've done shows after every game for a couple of years, but then you actually work in it, and it is the longest season, and it introduces you to the length of the season in a way that I couldn't fathom. It was amazing. I grew so much in baseball, my knowledge of baseball, just talking to coaches and players and trying to absorb. And then in the offseason, you feel like, where's the games? You're just wondering what to do with your nights. That was a part of being on Locked On Twins too. But it's especially so, I think, when just so much of your life is consumed by the schedule, and then getting into the winter is an adjustment. But I'm enjoying watching the Vikes. I know you got the sweet hoodie on. I'm enjoying watching football. It's always good.
Yeah, got to represent the Vikings. I got to ask you, Nash, how did Reno come together for you? Were they on your radar? Were they a preferred destination? Were there a number of places you tried to go? How did it all come together? Because obviously, you know, the way the season ended for Arizona, a wildly successful season for the organization. But, you know, I'm sure Reno's probably not the number one location for people to start. Certainly better than not at all. How did it come together for you, though?
I cast a wide net. I was looking at teams. Working in the Twins org would have been super cool. I would have loved that. And I did cast a wide net, though. I went down every minor league team for all 30 clubs and found out if there were openings anywhere. And then Reno was late in the offseason. It came together late. It took a little bit to come together, but I remember I was talking to my parents and I'm like, oh, I'm interviewing with the Aces tomorrow. And my dad's like, oh, Reno. I've never even heard of Reno. I had no idea what it was. I didn't know even where it was. And I clicked with them so well. And I just felt right. And I know it sounds cliche and people always say it just felt right, but it did. And then when I went and I got here, it felt like I did when I first got to Mizzou, where I just felt like it was a second home. And I still miss Minnesota. Always, that will be home. I felt like this was a second home for me, and it was a place that I could grow. It was an opportunity for me here to grow on the air because I just didn't have as many reps and I didn't have that experience. All I needed was just here's your stage, do what you do, show us what you can do. And I was so excited and happy to just get that stage. It came together quickly. To work at AAA was really cool. We had 16 aces in the World Series. I think it was World Series, may have been NLCS this year. And so just meeting them was so cool, and seeing like their day to day and learning what they do. And that from covering the Twins,
right?
Watching it is different than watching on TV. You're so much more intricate, and you get to know them a little bit, and it changes it for you when you watch the games.
Now, my understanding is that broadcasters do a lot more than just turn the lights on and turn the lights off in the broadcast booth, especially on the minor league side. I've heard of some of them doing like the post-game notes. I've heard some of them doing the pre-game notes. You kind of have to wear a lot of different hats, if I'm not mistaken.
Definitely. And our role is a content focused role. So I did TikToks. I would do, like, you'll see the Twins do, you see a lot of teams do. What's your favorite Thanksgiving dish? Like, we would have that ready for Thanksgiving. Or what's your favorite? And we would say, well, who's your favorite NFL team? And then we would mash that all together and do a TikTok. So I did a lot of those. And then, we did stories too. I would make videos, and doing news really helped me because I did news at Mizzou. I was doing reporting while I was on the news, like doing live hits, making packages. And that helped me a ton when I was doing these stories to put together package-like features on players. I just have so much creative flexibility. They let me do what I want to do on the content front. So guys come back, and it's fun to cover and ask them about their time in the majors. How are they trying to get back? All of those things, you can make pieces, and I just have so much creative freedom. So yes, it is, the broadcast, I view the broadcast as something fun I get to do at the end of my day, because there's just so much that goes into the day, and you do wear a lot of hats, and that's the broadcast at the end is almost, it's this cookie at the end of the day, like, oh, now we get to go watch the game. And that's how I view it. And some people view it differently. That's how I view it.
So if I were to set an over under at like 11 and a half or 12 and a half hour work days, is it pretty close?
Yes, I think during the season, the bigger thing, like, people think about these long days. I think the bigger adjustment is it's really weird to not have weekends. It's just very weird to not have like your Saturday and Sunday. So that's something where your weekend is baseball. Like, we're going in and we're there all day on Saturday. We have a day game Sunday. Like, I'm back here at 5 o'clock. So your whole weekend is ball. Like, I wouldn't have it any other way. So the long days, you get used to that, I think, quickly. It's the weekends that's different, because our whole lives, like in school and in jobs, you're always thinking about, oh, we're going to get to Friday, and then it's the weekend. We're just getting started. Like, we have our promo nights Fridays and Saturdays. Those are the big crowds, the big nights. That was the biggest adjustment for me, I think, in a 6-month season. Just, there are no weekends. That's what you do. And when the season starts, that bell goes off. That's what you're doing for 150 games. I again wouldn't have it any other way. I love it.
So how did like day games versus night games differ? Because so when you cover the Twins, day games, you get up and at it earlier, obviously, but it's not that much shorter of a day, if at all, because you're still going to be there putting out fires, maybe starting new ones. But, how did those days vary for you, day games versus night games?
When you watch the Twins, you probably think of it, and I thought of it this way when I was watching the Twins. Like, if the Twins have a day game on a Thursday, let's say, it's usually an off day, some weeks. They have a day game on a Wednesday or a Thursday. I view that the end of the day game into the night game on that next day. So let's say that's Friday night. That's like, okay, let's take a breather. So I view that as, let's take a breather. If you have 6 night games in a row, it feels like you don't get that breather as much. The day game, yes, the day is not necessarily shorter. You just get that time where you can go home, you can eat dinner at home, you can go to bed, you can wake up and you have a night game the next day, so you don't necessarily have to rush in there the next day, and you get that extended period. So I always like the day games. People disagree with that. They're like, I would do night every single day. I like the day game mixed in, like a Tuesday series opener on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Like, that's beautiful to me. I'll get up and go, and then we're back by 4 or 5 o'clock, and you kind of get that break in between. So it varies. That's when I view it as the breather. I think you even view it that way when you're covering the Twins. You view it, you get that extra time, you get that night, and then you go into the next day and have a night game the next day.
For sure. Let's take a quick second and talk about our friends at Jase Medical here. And then on the other side, We will talk about, I want to ask you about travel. I want to ask you a little bit about the city, Reno. Then we're going to talk Twins because that's what we're here for. So just let's take a quick second and talk about our friends over at Jase. And our friends at Jase want to make sure that you know that we spend a lot of time talking together. We get fired up together on wins and losses, who starts and who sits, and I'm thankful for that connection. But today, I want our chat to be a little more personal. I just learned that you can get a 1-year supply on ED medications. Try not to crack a smile if you can help it, Nash. But you realize what that means, that you can bring on extended travel, the next natural disaster or supply chain issue. You are covered, my friend. You don't have to worry about whether or not you can refill your generics for Cialis, Viagra, or Revachio. And this is possible because of our friends at Jase Medical. Go online right now at jasemedical.com to receive your 12-month supply on your daily medication. Remember to use promo code LOCKEDON. That's all one word at checkout for a discount as well. A verified customer had this to say about Jase. I'm thankful for this service. Supply chain issues caused me to cut pills in half just so I could have it. I ordered most of my daily meds with a year supply. I also ordered the antibiotic kit, and I feel secure now. Prices are lower than local pharmacies, and I highly, highly recommend this for everyone. So if you or someone you love would get some peace of mind by knowing that they have a yearly supply of any daily medication, go to jasemedical.com and see if it's offered for you. Remember to use the promo code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. That's Jase Medical, JASE medical.com. Okay, we're coming out on the other end of things. We call our second segment the bullpen, talking about the 2023 season. I suspect, based on the layout of the Diamondback system, that you probably saw some pretty dang good players. I did not double check that. I'm admitting in prep that I did not do that. But I mean, when you think of who would have gone through the higher levels of the minors, I would assume Jordan Lawler was around and a few other players like that. Who all did you see this year? And, how was the quality of baseball? Because AAA is pretty dang good baseball.
For sure, and that line's blurring and blurring and blurring. You see it with the Saints and Twins too, and the Aces and D-backs definitely. The outfield depth is just amazing in this system. Corbin was here last year for a very short time. He's so
you
good.
Just missed him, I suppose.
Yeah, just missed him. This year we had Alec Thomas, we had Jake McCarthy, we had Dominic Fletcher. Like all those outfielders are so talented. That group of outfielders is awesome. And then among them, like the top prospects, we had Jordan too. Jordan was great. 16 games he played, hit 5 homers here, and he was gone. Wow. that's what happens, right? You play 16, you do well, you're gone. Then we had what was really cool too. We had these veterans come through. So we had Longoria on a rehab assignment. So he just comes up on the dugout. You talk to him, and then in the PCL, Michael Brantley, like chopped it up with Michael Brantley. Grady Sizemore came as a coach. Wow. Gary Sanchez was there. We talked to Gary, like Didi Gregorius I talked to. Like, it's just so cool because you get this opportunity. These players you've watched when you were growing up, and they come through. And guys I've talked about on the podcast on Locked On Twins, and they come through, and I'll go up, to Didi and talk to him about beating up on the Twins, and we laugh about that. Or, Aaron Sanchez was here, and I talked to Aaron Sanchez about his time with the Twins. And so I kind of linked those two things together. We had really talented prospects. And then the mixture of that with the veterans who I've known, feels like I've watched my entire life.
Right.
It's beyond words for just a baseball fan in me to be among that much talent and guys who are just so accomplished.
What was your expectation for the PCL coming in? Because I think we all kind of view it as an offensive heavy league. Did it meet your expectations?
It's absurd, Brandon. It is beyond like it is. If we get a lower scoring game, we circle it. If it's 5-4, like it is constantly 15-11. We'll get, it feels like on average it is like 12-9 is a pretty average final for us. The offensive environment's crazy. At home, it is here, our park, super hitter friendly. So you'll see, for you and I who look at numbers all the time, you'll see Ollie Sanchez, for example, our catcher, who was awesome. So I was watching him all year, and he was hitting like 305, and he had like a 400 on base percentage. He was slugging 5 something, and his weighted runs created plus was 100. It was just
98 Rockies.
Exactly, the 98 on the Rockies, exactly. So I would watch him, and I'm thinking to myself, this dude's having an amazing year. And then I would go do prep, and he would be league average. And you find a way to not take anything away from him because he is having a great year for a catcher. To be league average is fantastic. That's just the reality of the league. So my expectations, I didn't have many. Our opening day final, I think, was 16-14, and it woke me up right away.
Wow. Let's talk about travel for just a split second before we go on to Twins. What is travel like at AAA? And then, how many cities did you see that you'd never seen before, and what was that like?
I did the 75 home games, and then I went to Vegas. This next upcoming year, I will see all those cities. So I didn't get a full. I kind of eased into that at the end of the year. I went to Vegas and traveled on that trip, but we'll see Salt Lake, Albuquerque, El Paso, Sugar Land. We'll go up to Washington, and we fly to most of these places. We'll bus to Sacramento. I'm really excited about the travel. I'm super excited to go. And we saw the minor league schedule change, as you and I were doing Locked On Twins, to the 6-game format. And you're somewhere for a week now. So you can maybe try new places. You can go out to eat somewhere because you're there all week. And it usually would have been you're home for 3, just like a Major League Baseball schedule. You might go on the road for 4, you come back for 3. It's alternating, but this is 6 in one spot. So I'm really excited for that. I'm super pumped. Going to Vegas was awesome. Just getting that experience to be with the team and like fly with the team. And I can't wait. I'm super excited.
So do they ever do, and I assume the answer is yes, but 6 in a city and then 6 in another city, but not coming back home? Like you might be away from home for a long time.
Yeah, 33 of our first 51 are on the road, and we have back-to-back road series twice in April and May, so I'll be gone for a while. So we'll be gone for 16 days at a time, not checking in back at home. We'll be gone that entire time, play 12 games in 16 days, whatever it is, and then come home. And then we'll have back-to-back home series at times, and those will get long. You play 12 straight at home. It's just the baseball schedule. I can't even describe it. I can't even describe the day-to-day, and it's every single day you're playing ball. And I thought I was going to be ready for that, and I feel ready now. I got an introduction.
By the way, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe for the first ever, easy for me to say, national sports 24/7 streaming channel. I checked that out today for the Minnesota side. Absolutely phenomenal. Can't recommend it enough. Anyway, Nash, Twins. We got to talk about the Twins. Added 4 players to the 42 today, 2 last week in Yunior Severino and Jair Camargo. Today, Emmanuel Rodriguez and Austin Martin. No surprises on the addition side. I mean, I guess Camargo, if you want to be surprised, that's fine. But the omissions, I'd heard some rumblings that maybe Aaron Sabato was in the mix, and that surprised me, but I trusted the people who were telling me that. And also Jose Salas not being added. Tough year, kind of hard to imagine someone rostering him. But I'm sure, obviously, him not being the number one piece from that trade makes it a little easier to stomach if, him not having a good season, et cetera. But when you look at those additions, is anything really jumping out at you? Because I thought, Anthony Prado made some sense, had a really nice year. There were a few guys. Deshaun Kiersey kind of came into his own, reminded me a little bit of this last year. Oh, the speedy guy who had a great year at AAA. Why am I blanking on? He was on the roster at the end of the year as a pinch runner.
Stevenson.
Andrew Stevenson. He played in the big with the Nationals. Nice breakout season for Kiersey. I don't know if he's got a future in the organization or not. But again, these additions, anything surprise you or jump out at you?
I don't think so. I think the one that is potentially intriguing is Severino. I think we both expected Martin and Erod. Camargo, you want to stash as much catching depth as possible. Definitely.
Well, you're not going to go through 2 catchers in a year again. That just doesn't happen.
That was amazing. That was amazing. They're going to need Camargo at some point. I agree. Severino's the power and the switch hitting ability is potentially intriguing. I know we were worried about Wallner's hit tool and like the swing and miss and all that at AAA, and he did swing and miss quite a bit for the Twins too. It felt like he made an adjustment, and if Severino can make a similar adjustment, his is a little more extreme, but if he can make a similar adjustment, it feels like, hey, maybe we have a first baseman, even just a platoon option. That would be big for the Twins at first base. So he's the most intriguing to me, I think, of the group. Austin Martin, I'm not selling on Austin Martin. I don't think I've sold on Austin Martin since that trade in 2021, and I think he's going to play a prominent role this year too for the Twins. And then Erod is just so exciting. I'm super excited about him. So not a bunch of surprises. I think Severino, because of the breakout he had, I'm interested if he gets a chance, if they give him a chance out of spring training, maybe even to make the roster. And then, I do think Martin's going to play a big role on the team this year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because Dave and I talked about utility players, and I think we all kind of lifted one eyebrow when they signed Donovan Solano, because it was kind of like, how does he fit on a roster that's got Kyle Farmer, that's got Nick Gordon, that's got all these guys who can kind of play all over the place, and then Solano has the third most plate appearances on the team. And I kind of feel like I'm banging that drum a lot, but I get the sense that there's going to be opportunities like that for a lot of guys, whether it's internal or external. Some of the guys I like from the outside, I like Eduardo Rodriguez, but we're not talking about him. Eduardo Escobar. Whit Merrifield, I don't think he's going to be in the competition because he's going to make a bit more money than they want to spend. But you start looking at these one-year guys. Kike Hernandez is one I come back to. Good clubhouse guy, has played some outfield in the past. And then I also said maybe trade for Nick Senzel, because Senzel seems to be, if Jonathan India is an odd man out, which has kind of been a rumbling, very good player. Senzel, I think, is even further down their depth chart than that, but he can play all over. He's a post hype sleeper. Obviously not the number one thing for the Twins to address this offseason, but I am eager to see who is the next Kyle Farmer, who is the next Donovan Solano, because I do think they're probably going to non-tender Kyle Farmer at the dollar figure he's expected to get.
I think Jeff Carr said with me, Jonathan India is who Nick Senzel was supposed to be for the Reds. Like, they were so excited about Nick Senzel, and then it ended up being India in a kind of a similar role. Honestly, the Jonathan India thing, that would be something. I mean, that would be to see where he ends up. I like this Senzel. He is. Senzel is in that Solano vein, like the right-handed platoon, could potentially spark you. And I like the Kike Hernandez thought too, because I think Solano is a good clubhouse guy for them. It seemed like he was really well liked this year. And he just had a good year at the plate. He just had a Gio Urshela year at the plate from 22. It was really similar. So
Gio's a free agent too, by the way.
Yeah, he is. Is he gonna be ready?
Broken pelvis and all. I mean,
is he gonna be ready to go? I don't know.
Yeah, and that's something to think about is the tough thing to figure out with this team every offseason is how do they prioritize first base? Do they want someone like Rhys Hoskins on kind of an upswing after his injury? If he wants a bridge deal, the Twins love those short-term deals with guys who, have some potential. Hoskins isn't old by any means. He's been around a while, but he's not coming off the best season where he's probably going to get a 4 or 5 year deal like he might have wanted. But do they really want to do that and, chew up first base to move Kirilloff to the outfield? Kirilloff not necessarily healthy, so you can't really count on him. That means Wallner's probably got playing time. Like, you can start flipping through a Rolodex. It's kind of, if not this, then what? If not this, then what? If not this, then what? And that's why I keep coming back to the idea of guys who can play all over. Because if I would have told you at the beginning of the year that the Twins would win a playoff game, their first playoff game, and the final play would be a smash that Donovan Solano makes a diving stop on at first base and takes to first himself, boy, I don't know if I would have believed you.
That was special. That was special.
I still get chills thinking about the fan noise on TV. I can't imagine what it was like in person.
Oh, yeah. It was just amazing to watch. And Solano deserved to be there. He was big for them all year. He deserved to play. The Kirilloff thing, has it changed in every offseason? It just feels like it's always the same questions. I've no less faith in his ability to hit at a high level when he's healthy. It's the same thing we've been saying for a couple of years. And
Yeah.
It's like, can you trust him? Can you trust him to stay healthy at first base? If he's healthy, that he's going to be great.
I got hurt at first base against Toronto too. Like first base is,
right.
Royce Lewis got hurt at first base. He did that head over heels flip. I don't know if you saw
that
it.
was
They were using that as a highlight on commercials for Bally, and I'm like, guys,
no,
stop.
That was bad. That was not good. Yeah, that's always. I feel like maybe, and you may disagree, but I think this is the biggest question for them again. Is like first base. Replacing Sonny Gray is a big question, and then what are you going to do at first base? Do you continue to invest in Kirilloff and believe that he's going to be there and play 130 games and have a?
What about Jose Miranda?
Yeah. Remember you and I in postcast in 22 marveling about Jose Miranda. Just amazing. He was amazing.
He's still there.
Yep. What do you think? What do you think about him for this year?
I'm not gonna. I would say you kind of earmark like 150, 200 plate appearances just to kind of get a feel for what he's going to be for you. Obviously, the struggles to start the season were monumentous. It was not quite like Miguel Sano that last year or anything like that, but it was, something that I think it looked like it was kind of weighing on him. And we saw that in his rookie season too, where he had that quick mental reset. He didn't even get to St. Paul before he had to come back. And so I don't know. It's like, how much can you rely on him? But at the same time too, it's a good problem to have. If you build a roster with a few more big leaguers, it certainly doesn't hurt to have Trevor Larnach, Jose Miranda, and a handful of these guys at St. Paul, 12 miles away or whatever it is. I can't help myself. I do really like the roster. It's just a matter of how are they going to address the very specific needs they have to maintain. It's not necessarily a stranglehold in the center, or in the central, but I really don't trust the Royals at all, the White Sox at all. The Tigers are making strides, but they're an incomplete team that just lost or is going to lose most likely Eduardo Rodriguez. Guardians are, I think they're unserious, honestly. So I like the roster right now for the Twins. And I just think, with a couple of not even crazy moves, they can be right back where they were a year from now, and maybe further.
Think of how bad that the first half was offensively, and they won 87 games, and they were in. Dan Hayes wrote this today. I just couldn't believe that I read this. They were in first place for all but 5 games. 5 games. You would never have known that. You would never have known. It was just always looking in the rear view.
Coming out of the break, I think or going into and coming out of the break, I think
that was the only 5 days.
Yeah,
the only time. That's
like they were out for the whole year though, because of how. And I'm sure you saw on Twitter or X or whatever they're calling it now. It was some choppy waters out there for Twins fans. Let's just be honest.
Oh, definitely. Think of how rough it was, and they still won 87 games. They still ran away with the division. To me, I think they're heavy favorites to win the Central again. The goal for me is like, let's get a first round bye. Let's not play in that wild card round next year. Get a first round bye, win 90 plus games, see if you can beat the West winner or the East winner, whoever it may be. And I think that's reachable. Maybe they need to do something, add a 4 or 5 win player to get to that point. You could also argue they could do that at the deadline. Like, this is one of those off seasons. Usually I'm always just, let's go. I think they're in such a good spot in comparison to the rest of the division that I think they're going to be okay, even if they have one of those. But they did have that offseason in 21, and that year just went so poorly. But if they had a similar offseason to that, I think they're going to be okay.
What do you make of the idea of a potential payroll reduction? To me, it's small potatoes because of how many Bally teams there are. And then 2 news coming via Dan Hayes, love Dan Hayes, that the Twins may have something lined up to broadcast games where, it's not going to be the money that they would have gotten from Bally if Bally could actually pay it. But as far as a payroll reduction, I'm not losing that much sleep over it. I'll tell you why. Because I think, above all, I really expect them to maybe try another Pablo Lopez type trade where they identify someone that they think they can build up. And Pablo is good before the Twins.
Right.
He just turned to, an absolute stone cold ace. So you start kind of identifying guys, and it's Jesus Luzardo is the guy I keep coming back to. The Marlins are going to have a different GM. Kim Ng is out of there. But between them and the Reds, I feel like the Twins have some opportunities to go get Senzel after they've been trading with the Reds. And who knows if the Marlins – because here's the deal with Luzardo, if you haven't followed that closely. He's due about $6 million, but he's a Super 2, so he's going to get really expensive really quickly. So while he may not be burning a hole in the Marlins' pockets right now, they do run the risk of sitting on him for a year. If there's any velo drop, any injury, he goes from a $6 million luxury to a $9 million albatross very quickly. So here's what I'm thinking. If you have to trade Emmanuel Rodriguez, as much as that hurts, as much as I would hate that, I would do it for Jesus Luzardo.
It's an interesting thought. I'm thinking of the Marlins. It's hard because now Kim is gone. You're thinking of their thought process is hard to think of because they have Arise now, and I think he has 2 more years.
But now he's getting expensive too.
Right, exactly. He's getting expensive too. So yeah, I think the Marlins, like for years we've been saying, go get some Marlins starters, and they did it last year with Pablo. I love Luzardo. I mean, Luzardo's electric. He would be awesome at Target Field. People are continuing to talk about Milwaukee, which maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the year. We've been saying that for years too, right? We know about this front office is you hear about a certain guy and then they don't get that guy. You hear about Corbin Burns. Yeah. But actually Pablo buzz was pretty loud last year. Yeah, the Pablo buzz was loud. Freddie Peralta, I just dream on Freddie Peralta, cost controlled, 3 years under team control. That's the type of guy they would I think would target over a Burns for 1 year. I think they'd pay maybe a little bit more to get 3 years of Peralta.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm dreaming on him.
Who is off limits though in this system? Brooks Lee, Walker Jenkins, is that it?
I think I'd be open, if you're getting a cost controlled player, I think I'm open to a lot in the system. I think generally the control really does matter. Like 1 year of Corbin Burns, you're probably blocking off. I'd block off 4 or 5 guys for 1 year of Corbin Burns, even though I think Corbin Burns is excellent. But like 5 years of a good young starter, hypothetically, I'm probably opening it up a little bit.
Well, and they wanted to do that with Zach Gallen, and I've told this story before, and maybe to you even. The Twins said, "Hey, Miami Marlins, we like Zach Gallen," and the Miami Marlins are like, "No, we're not trading him." And then like a week later, they trade him for Jazz Chisholm. I mean, great trade, great player, but the fact that the Twins identified Gallen some handful of starts into his career as someone they wanted, and now you see how good he is, and you see it, you're in the organization. I feel like, you mentioned Woodruff, and why would he be available? The Brewers are in transition. They lost their manager. They traded Mark Canha to save money. Why would they trade Woodruff? Well, because of money, most likely, right? He's going to make a lot of money, and they may not be as good as they want to be. Well, if the Twins are reducing payroll, going and getting Woodruff kind of kicks that concept in the pants a little bit. So I think they're going to want, and that's why I come back to Luzardo. You will never, ever sign anyone close to that good for $6 million in the free agent market. And I'm not reinventing the wheel saying that. But what I think about is you go get that cheaper pitcher, and then you can fortify your offense with, you're probably going to need someone who can hang in center. My pipe dream is Cody Bellinger. It's not going to happen, but he can play center. He can play first. Where are you weakest at health-wise? Center and first. So, but I know the exit velocities are great. The page, the Savant page doesn't necessarily show you a 900 OPS guy who's a good center fielder. So I don't know. It gets tricky because too, all that infield depth, do you trade Jorge Polanco? Can you get that much? I love Jorge Polanco. I think he's one of the very most underrated players in the game today, or at least the American League. But who's the best starter you can get for Jorge Polanco? Is it Adrian Hauser from the Brewers? Is it someone better than that? Because again, I like Polanco, but a second baseman making $10 million, I don't know who's trading you a needle mover.
I thought about the Rays too in all of this, and they're always a wild card. They're always active as well. Like, can you potentially try for Tyler Glasnow on a 1 year, $25 million deal? These are people that everyone is noticing. You notice these guys because they're on expiring deals on teams that want to shed payroll usually. So you notice these guys. Glasnow, if you could find that lightning in a bottle for 130 innings, I personally think, I watched most Twins games this year. I think the best starter they faced this year in that particular start was Glasnow. He was His stuff is just unreal. He's 6'8". The extension with the fastball already at 100, and he has 99th percentile extension because he's so big.
In Houston situation.
Yes. I just think he is. I think his stuff is the best in the big leagues. And if you could get him for just even 1 year, and he stays healthy for just that 1 year, you don't need 5 years. You just need that 1 year. He could be such a difference maker for them.
And maybe they pay him. Right. There is enough flexibility with two superstar talents making about $40-something million in Correa and Buxton, where you can add another big contract. Now, Lopez is going to jump from $8 million to $20 million, so that's got to be factored in there. But I also think they could backload a few deals this offseason if they want, or not a few, but if they want to sign a fairly sizable deal with, I don't even know who even fits the bill, because this offense is so weird. You don't know who's going to stay healthy, where you have gaps. Are you going to spend much money on a center fielder, or are you going to get like Harrison Bader and kind of piece it together? There's just so many questions. And then you and I both know they're going to go out and trade for someone we're not even talking about, like Keller, or any number of guys where it's like, who's that guy? Or they'll sign Eric Fetty coming back from overseas, and it will make sense, but it will come out of nowhere. It's like when Homer Bailey and Rich Hill signed that day. I think it was New Year's Eve or just before New Year's, and it was like, where did that come from?
They're going to trade a lot for a starter a lot of people have never heard of, but we know is good. Then you're going to be
keeps coming up. Brian Wu of the Mariners keeps
for
coming
sure.
Up.
Right.
They have so many guys who are just electric too. Nash, before we go, just how excited are you going into next season in this role, and how are you going to spend your off season? Are you coming home for the holidays? Are you resting and recuperating? You look pretty jacked, so I know what you're doing in your off time. What does this off season look like for you?
I will be home, yes, for the holidays. Looking forward to that, or with the family. We'll be out and about. This is definitely a time to regroup and get ready for the season, and take this time to take a breath. Get sleep. To eat, sleep, all the things that sometimes you can't always do during the season. Baseball comes first during the season. I'm super excited. I'm like counting down to opening day, as we always do. But I'm just like, to be in it and get that taste of it for that year gets me so excited to get back into it again. I cannot wait for the season to start. We open in Vegas this year, Final Four weekend. So I can't wait to get there. I'm super excited.
Nash Walker in Vegas sounds like a Reno looks good on you, man. It's so great to catch up with you. 1,000 episodes. Who would have ever thought?
Who would have thought? And Brandon and I did about 70 of them together. Did we do 70? Maybe more than that. I mean, I had you on in 2019. You were one of the first episodes. I had you on in December of 19. We did a crossover. And
then in 21, I was just certain they were going to be so good. And then
so was I.
A lot of things happened.
Matt
Shoemaker happened. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out. If you have time, and if we find time, we'd love to have you again, because you are obviously still very plugged in with the Twins. Okay, last thing for you. Who would be, if I like to ask this on Twitter, if you were to think of one name the Twins do not have in their organization right now that they will come opening day, who is it?
One name. It's difficult to hear about the payroll and then try to project free agents.
That's why I think it's got to be someone cheap, like Carlos Santana.
You know what I like, Brandon? I'm hoping for this. The projection for Liam Hendriks was 2 years, $12 million. I would love to see like $2 million in year one when he's coming back from Tommy John, and then like $10 million in year two, and bring him back and just have him in the clubhouse and like have him back in Minnesota. And then maybe you get like that frontline closer, backline closer in year two for $10 million. He had Tommy John surgery. I would love to see Liam Hendriks. I'll predict Liam Hendriks, because I would love to see Liam Hendriks back in Minnesota.
Yeah, and I kind of come back to like Carlos Santana, or Cal Quantrill got DFA'd by the Guardians today. See him resurfacing in Minnesota, but who knows what he has left. They've had a couple guys fall off between him and Plezak. Plezak was the other guy who got dropped from the 40. But again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day, your evening, your off season. And we'll keep up with you on Twins Daily this off season. I assume you'll be doing some more stuff there too.
For sure. Yeah. Subscribe to Locked On Twins, everybody. Brandon Warren, subscribe. You know that Derek Falvey and Thad Levine are going to do something crazy, and you're going to want to hear Brandon break it down. And
they're not going to publicly lambaste Alex Kirilloff or Byron Buxton in the media like Brian Cashman did. But we have been having a Minnesotan goodbye here for about the last 10 minutes. Thank you so much, Nash.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll catch you on the flip side. We'll see you later. This is Locked On Twins.